So Guardians of the Galaxy just got released this weekend, and it's been getting like the best of reviews. Like, I don't know if it still is, but when I looked on Internet Movie Database earlier this week, or like just like Friday even, it was like a 9.0 rating on IMDb. So that was like one of the greatest ratings I've ever seen in a movie, period, on IMDb. And actually going to look at it, okay, it's been taken down to an 8.9, but still, that's pretty dang high. And I've just been thinking about all the different Marvel movies, and I thought I would take the time to. Sorry, I got distracted. My friend Zach just favorited one of the tweets I just tweeted. It seems like I bring him up a lot in videos, actually. I've been thinking about all the Marvel movies a lot recently, and I think I've seen all but one of them. Two, if you count Guardians of the Galaxy, which again, um, I'm going to go see it at some point soon, and be on the lookout for what I plan to be the next monthly chronicle for August is going to be a discussion about Guardians of the Galaxy, just like we did with Days of Future Past. It's going to be one of those deals, so be on the lookout for that. And the only other Marvel movie that I don't think I've seen is The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I've heard. I'll get to it when I get. I'll get to it when I get to that. But I thought I would just sit down and talk about all the different Marvel movies. And if I miss any, I'm sorry, but these are the ones that I know. Starting off with the original Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man was a pretty decent movie. Not gonna lie, it wasn't the greatest. With Marvel movies, there have been a lot of hits and there have been a lot of misses and a lot of just. Mm. I would classify Spider-Man 1 as just kind of a. My hair did a thing. I would classify Spider-Man 1 as just kind of a okay one. It was not terrible by any means, but at the same time, it's kind of a little corny, but given the time, it was actually pretty good. And it was followed up by Spider-Man 2, which was even better. That one I would call a hit. Was just a step up from the previous Spider-Man movie, which, again, I thought was just okay. And then there was Spider-Man 3. That's where it all went down. Spider-Man 3, everybody knows, is kind of the worst of the trilogy, or the original Spider-Man trilogy, I should say, since they've kind of technically rebooted it. I feel like I don't even need to give an explanation behind Spider-Man 3. If you've seen it, you probably know it. If you haven't seen it, you still probably know. Following that, though, Marvel also did two Fantastic Four movies, which I just recently saw those. I actually live tweeted when I was watching the first one. But those two, I was unimpressed with both of them, I'll be honest. I just didn't really. They were kind of like mindless superhero movies, and a lot of what they didn't really seem to make sense to me, so. Sorry. And also because I had seen both Captain America movies before watching Fantastic Four, so I'm watching it, I was like, that's Captain America, though. The second one, I was kind of like, Moving on, then, as far as I know, there weren't any Marvel movies in between until 2008 when they had Iron Man. And Iron Man, obviously, that was a huge hit. That one put Marvel back on the map. And it was followed up by The Incredible Hulk, which, oh wait, there was a Hulk movie before then. There was a 2003, the Ang Lee Hulk. Forgotten about that one. That one wasn't that good. But it was followed up by The Incredible Hulk, in which Edward Norton played Dr. Banner. My computer, hey, don't do that. That's rude. Computer fell asleep on me while it's. You can't do that while I'm recording. Sheesh. The Incredible Hulk, that one, for me, I know some people do prefer Edward Norton as Bruce Banner, but for me, that movie was a miss for me. I don't know. I didn't like the chemistry between Edward Norton and Liv Tyler, and I just kind of thought that Edward Norton just didn't have a face for the Hulk. Following that, you had Iron Man 2, which that one also, for me, is a miss. It does, however, introduce Black Widow, who is one of my favorite characters. So there's a plus for that. After Iron Man 2, there was. Now I'm kind of forgetting if Thor came first or if Captain America Captain America came first. I think Thor came first. Thor, that one was, I would call that one a hit, but a lesser hit, not as big of a hit. I can't really say anything bad about Thor, but it's just that one compared to the others is a little more forgettable. Then you had Captain America, and uh, I've had to do it in stages, but I've been rewatching the first Captain America, which is Captain America: The First Avenger, and I have really every time I watch that one, I love it a little bit more because when I first watched it, I didn't get it, but then the second time I watched it, it was like everything started clicking for me, and every single time I watch it again, something new clicks for me. So I really am starting to enjoy that one, and especially after watching Captain America 2, going back and watching the first Captain America, you really realize how cool that movie was. Then you had Avengers, and that was the one that just completely shattered the mold. When I heard about the Avengers, I thought that that movie was going to be just a disaster because it was combining all these characters from all these movies, all of whom were already established. And I thought it was just going to be like uh, all the stars fighting for the limelight there. But and I was predicting that Robert Downey Jr. was probably going to dominate the entire cast, but thankfully it didn't end up being like that, and they took the time to develop all the characters even more instead of just relying on you having seen all the previous movies. They took that a step further, and you got to really understand who the characters were, why they wanted what they wanted, and just everything about that. I have nothing bad to say about the Avengers. That is one of my all-time favorite movies. Following Avengers is when you had Phase 2 of Marvel's cinematic universe, and you had Iron Man 3, which I'm not even going to say very much about Iron Man 3. That one was kind of a letdown. How are they going to work that in Age of Ultron if Iron Man had the thing? Isn't this supposed to be what powers his suit, the electromagnet thingy that he had in his chest? He had that removed at the end of Iron Man 3. So how are they going to make that work in Age of Ultron if he's going to be Iron Man again? We'll have to see how they work that one out. I'm sure Joss Whedon will do okay with it. After Iron Man 3 came Thor 2, I think. Did that come next? It must have come next. Thor 2, that one, I think Thor 2, The Dark World, was better than the first Thor. It was more memorable, and it had some it had some clever writing. The plot in and of itself is kind of confusing, but the dialogue in Thor 2 I felt was a little smarter, and it also had former Doctor Who Christopher Eccleston. He played the main villain in that movie, so that was definitely a plus. At some point then there was The Amazing Spider-Man, which I don't even remember when that one actually came out. I think it might have been 2012. I could look it up on here, but I'm not gonna. I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it. It's just one of those movies. And then there was Captain America 2, and that was, again, when Marvel proved me wrong. Watching the trailers for Captain America 2, I was very skeptical that that movie would be any good because I watched the trailers. I basically saw fighting, gun shooting, and explosions, and nothing that really intrigued me about the plot. And then one day I was at Kohl's trying on new pants, and I got a text from my friend Joey. He's like, "Hey, you want to go see Captain America?" And I was like, "Well, okay." So I went, and I was blown away by Captain America 2. That one further cemented my further cemented how Captain America became one of my favorite Marvel characters. See, after Captain America. Oh, I haven't been talking about the X-Men. I knew I was forgetting a major one. I haven't been talking about X-Men. So there was the first X-Men movie. Sorry, this timeline has kind of gone all over the place, but there was the first X-Men movie, which was really good, and then it was followed up by X2, which, like Spider-Man 2, X-Men, what was that called? It was called X2, X-Men United or something like that. The second one was even better than the first, and the first one was really good. After that came X-Men 3, The Last Stand, and that, again, was a terrible movie. I'm not going to talk about that. And then came X-Men Origins Wolverine, and that was an even worse movie, or I guess, I don't know which one was worse, actually. I I didn't like either of them. I'm not even going to comment which one's worse. I don't know. I don't care. They're both bad. And then there was First Class, which isn't. For me personally, I didn't think First Class was as good. It was definitely better than Origins and Last Stand, but I don't think it was as good as X-Men or X-Men 2. Not bad by any stretch, don't get me wrong. It's just, for me personally, I like the two originals better than that one. And then came just the Wolverine. And the Wolverine, that one again, it's not a bad movie by any stretch, but for me personally, I kind of got bored with that one. Following that, then there was X-Men Days of Future Past, which we did the whole review of that one. If you haven't seen it, you can watch it here, and just kind of, you can get a glimpse at all we thought. But overall, X-Men Days of Future Past was a great movie, and I really enjoyed it. My friend who I went to go see it with really enjoyed it as well, and I was actually talking to another friend of mine earlier today who he has his own blog and he reviews movies. He's saying how Days of Future Past is his second favorite movie of this year so far, and when I was talking to him about it, he's like, things I didn't like about Days of Future Past, nothing. So that's definitely saying something. And I think that pretty much catches you up to speed on all of them. I have high hopes for Guardians of the Galaxy, and I've talked to several friends of mine who I trust very much on their taste in movies, and so I really do think Days of Future Past, or why did I say Days of Future Past? I already know Days of Future Past is a good movie, but I think Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be really good. Again, be on the lookout for an upcoming monthly chronicle where we talk about I almost said Days of Future Past again, darn it. Guardians of the Galaxy. We're going to talk about that at some point. So before I make another mistake and try to say Days of Future Past, I am going to stop the video, and thank you for watching.